Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy. Thought we were a little bit overdue for some FaceTime. I don't have any grand announcements, so I thought I would do a tag that's been going around, a video response video. I'm not sure I've ever done a video response video. Sorry about the reflection in my glasses here. Can't be avoided. So there's a wonderful tarot reading community and just tarot lovers community here on YouTube. And occasionally when I'm doing other things, for the most part, I come across some of these video response tags and I think, oh, well, that's curious, and so I watch a few of them and really enjoy people's different perspectives, but I don't know that I've ever participated, but here I am. I'm going to participate again. I kind of feel like I was overdue for some FaceTime on my channel anyway. So here we go. So this is 10 questions every tarot reader must answer, and I think this goes around every year or so anyway. But I don't think I've ever answered these particular 10. So here goes. So the first one is, were you mentored or self-taught? And I was self-taught, really, if you don't include books, of course, years and years ago when I no longer have the book, and found a book, I think, at a library book sale. And then, and I don't know if that was, I think I got that first, and that made me curious. And then I think after that I got a deck, and then of course I read the book that came with the deck, which was not just a little white book, it was a substantial book, because it was a Celtic mythology based deck. But that proved a little bit problematic. Anyway, so I gathered all of, pieces from that first book that I got, which was a very traditional tarot book, and then from the book that came with the first deck that I got, and just cobbled together, and I still have them. One of the few artifacts that I've kept over many, many years are these notes on the tarot cards. It is amazing. I'm 53, and that was sometime in my early 20s, early to mid 20s, so now like about 30 years that I've kept these notes. Anyway, and that's pretty much how I learned. Now, I had a gap where I was reading less tarot and more oracle cards, and left the tarot behind, and really didn't want to come back to the tarot. Because when I had that Celtic deck as my first deck, that melding of that mythology and the tarot was kind of overburdened the system, you might say, and hampered my learning of it. And so I just ended up thinking that the tarot is very complicated. And I never became a completely independent reader of the cards when I had that deck. And so when I wanted to start reading more for other people, because I just wanted to start reading the cards more, and frankly, my life is not that exciting. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have to read for other people if I want to start reading the cards more. And I just felt moved to do that. That was over a year ago now, about a year and a half ago, a year and 9 months ago, something like that. I realized that most people aren't going to look for an oracle card reading. That's not the common thing, is tarot cards. And I thought, all right, well then I have to at least look at the tarot again. And now when I did that, I did actually watch a lot of YouTube videos, some educational in intent, but some simply watching people read the cards was like, oh yeah, I get that, I get that, I get that. And it really came much more naturally, made much more sense to me for whatever reason in my 50s. And I think that's because I went to the Rider-Waite-Smith and I didn't mess with it initially. I did not mess with any deviations, let's say, or elaborations, or overlaid mythologies, or anything like that. And since then, of course, I've played with that because I'm a very experimental kind of person. So you could say that I actually, in some ways, was mentored by the readers on YouTube, by watching them read and learning somewhat or getting their perspectives at any rate, which I think is something fascinating about tarot and oracle card reading, and reading is different people's perspectives on it, which is why I like these kinds of things that come around every year or so that ask people to explain themselves. At any rate, so a little of both, but certainly initially self-taught and never intentionally mentored, where I actually had a specific mentor. All right, so number 2, are you a psychic or a tarot card reader? I've never thought of myself as a psychic or a person who has psychic abilities. Of course, there are many people who say, well, everybody has psychic abilities, and to an extent I do believe, I certainly believe in intuition, and to me intuition is kind of the part of our mind that is able to process an abundance of information that our analytical mind has to sort out and throw away. So it's more, to me, a holistic way of looking. So I believe everybody has that capacity. But to me, psychic is something else. Psychic, to me, is sort of reaching out kind of beyond a veil, a barrier, whatever you want to say. But to me, it's a reaching out. It's a level of communication with something else that has knowledge that we don't have even with our intuition. And I don't feel like I have that. Now, when you're doing a reading, I will say this. When you're doing a reading, when I'm doing a reading, and I do distance readings. The vast majority of my readings are for people who are not sitting in front of me. And you are establishing a connection. And sometimes that's stronger than others. And so there are times when I'm reading the cards and I feel like I get a little head tilt. I'm going, what is that? Where I feel like I'm getting an insight beyond what's just on the cards in front of me, and I say that. So you may say I get little flashes of that kind of psychic connection or that kind of psychic message coming through. But I always start the reading as a card reader, and I love that. I love the images. I love reading the cards. So I think that's where I am. I'm a tarot card reader. I will say this. I am exploring shamanism and spirit animal guides, and that. And some people will call that, I've started to discuss with my sister who's a massage therapist, she's looking into theta healing, which is very similar to shamanism. And there is an aspect of that some people might call psychic, or might be that kind of communication with the spirit world. So who knows? I don't know. People would have to... the people who are the contemporary shamans, and the root of contemporary shamanism, which is through anthropology and anthropologists, probably wouldn't want to think of themselves as psychics or as people who are exploring psychic phenomenon. I'm not sure exactly how they think of themselves, and I can't remember the books that I've read kind of where they go with that, because to me it's not really that important. But so I don't know. You could say that I'm exploring that further. I'm not sure. It depends on your definition of psychic. All right. So number 3, are your predictions accurate, and is accuracy important to you? Now, I've heard some people give some really interesting answers to this, and I think all very appropriate answers to this. Of course, there's an assumption here, I think, with accuracy, that what we're doing is prediction, and I do some prediction. I do, and I do more near-term prediction. The goal, I think, with anybody is that you want to give people insight. So you're giving people into insight into potential futures, kind of where their actions are leading, and that sort of thing. It is important to me to be accurate. I mean, that's just, I don't know, part of even just growing up, and, being an A student or a B student, and being a teacher and all of these things, a teacher of English. So, is being accurate. Accurate in what way? When you get into something like this, when you're a teacher of English, let's say this, when you're a teacher of English, there's 2 different things. One of them is that if you want to be the communicator, you're communicating with another person, you do want to be very accurate as possible, but there's word choice, there's all kinds of opportunities, as we all know, with texting and email, and how we have to be careful about what we do and write when we can't see one another, facial expressions, body language, all of that sort of thing that ends up being missing. So we want to be as accurate as possible, but at the same time, the primary goal is communication. And so there's a great deal of flexibility there. So I guess I would say that it's important to me to communicate what I'm seeing in the cards so that the other person can take it and make a decision about how it is useful or relevant in their lives, how it can give them insight. Sometimes what I feel like I'm doing is I'm preparing them for something, because some feedback that I've gotten is that at the time that they receive the reading, they're like, I don't know, it just doesn't sound like, I don't know. And then later, as life plays itself out, they go, okay, I see, that's here now. that has arrived. And so again, I feel like I'm giving people insight. But like the analogy I was using with teaching English, you have these symbols on a page, and we've gotten as accurate as we can get, and you have all of this word choice and all of these ways of conveying meaning between us. And I teach English as a second language, and so I'm teaching people who don't know, and sometimes people who don't even have the Roman alphabet, so people from African countries and things like that. And so I see all of the different ways that can break down. And so one of the problems, of course, when you're reading tarot cards is, even though we have that 78, which is great, I always, much as I love oracle decks as well, I always hesitate when I have less than that 78. and we have a variety, so you have 78, it's like having 78 words in your vocabulary. So you're communicating to a client, and you're communicating a message that is not coming directly through you, but is laid out in the cards. And it's coming in not even the whole 78, so a very limited, you might say a very limited vocabulary that is laid down for you. And so I think it's difficult to be perfectly accurate, and it's part of the reason why I like to show cards, because except for Lenormand, but sometimes I even like to show those, because who am I to say that there isn't something on that card that's going to trigger an association or something in a client's or somebody's head, like when I do the readings up here, which is not for a specific client. I like to show you guys, especially when I'm doing these really broad readings, because that is for such a ridiculously large number of people, that there's no way to be perfectly accurate. I know it really resonates with some people and not with others, but I figure if I show that card, that allows you to also, receive the message, so to speak. So I try to be as accurate as I can, again, in interpreting the message that's in front of me, and all of the different things, even when if within a card, which is one of the beautiful things about the tarot and the situations that it sets up in an individual card, is that there are just a number of different ways of interpreting many of the cards as well. And so how do you be accurate? You do try to look at the surrounding cards and let that kind of narrow the message a little bit, or pinpoint the message a little bit. But so yes, certainly I try to be accurate, but I guess I'm very aware of the difficulties of being accurate in terms of just lifting the message off of the cards and providing it to a client. And I feel like there's three messages and message receivers there. There's the card, there's me, there's the client. And the client or the person receiving the reading also has a responsibility to take in that information and go, how does that apply? As opposed to going, oh no, that's not accurate, that can't possibly be me. So if you're blocking like that, there's nothing I can do. And it's hard to say whether it's because I'm not reading the cards accurately for you, or if there's something that you are not willing to receive or see or contemplate, something along that. So it's really, the whole issue of accuracy is difficult to contemplate. As somebody who reads for myself, certainly there are times when I look at the cards and it's like, I don't know what that's all about. I'm clueless. I wish I had somebody here to look at this, because clearly I'm too much in the middle of it to kind of grasp it, And I'm able to kind of just admit to myself whether that reading the cards, whether I'm having a bad day as a reader, the messages are coming to me. I mean, you can always say that kind of thing. But it can also be that I'm not in a place to receive whatever that message. I'm not in a place to completely grasp that understanding, and I have to give it time. And that's a difficult thing. I think when people come to a reading, they want answers, and that's why they're coming, is they're tired of waiting. They want the answer now. And sometimes you get, you might say, a riddle in the cards, or you get suggestions, or you get things that you have to hang on to for quite a while and sit with quite a while before before it bears fruit, you might say. Anyway, so it's an interesting question. Then I've certainly rambled on about it. I will say this. I would not be doing this if I did not get positive feedback from people about my accuracy. If I didn't get that, I wouldn't be doing this. When I first decided to read for people, and I had no idea if I would be good for reading for other people, and the only opportunity I really had, because it's kind of a closed-minded community that I live in, was to do it online. And I thought, well, that's even greater stretch, you know. now I'm trying to read for people who, you know, are on the other side of the world, and that just seemed ridiculous. But I did it because I really relate to the Fool card, and so I did it. I jumped off the cliff, and I just got really positive feedback, and that's the only reason that I went with it, and I continued, and and I got more and more people. This was the time that I was doing free readings, and I got more and more people, and more reinforcement. 100%, no, but pretty darn close, and people telling me that they were amazed, that they weren't expecting it, that accuracy. So that's why I'm here. So there you go. So it is important to me, or I wouldn't even be doing this. Okay. And number 4, I was going to say, there's more I could say on more about, like, the accuracy of my own readings for myself. But number 4, is there anything you can't predict? I'm sure. I honestly don't consider myself infallible about anything, and I think that the more wheels that are in motion in regards to any given question, the more difficult it is to predict what an outcome is going to be, because there's so much going on. And I know some people won't read about health issues. Sorry, I know that bright, being backlit doesn't help here, but it's all I can do for my setup for right now. Like for health issues, I know that some people don't or won't read about health issues because there are legal ramifications for that. It's as though you're setting yourself up to be a health practitioner, and there's laws about that. For some people, and I think this is for many, if they were to think about it, it's the body is such a complex system that for us to say, and the medicines and how they affect the bodies, your body is so complicated that involves so many interactions that how do we know the outcome? How do we know the outcome? There's just too many factors involved, and so it's easier to make a prediction when there are less balls in the air, less gears turning, etc. As isolated as you can make it makes it easier to give information about the consequences of actions, which is probably more what I think of myself as doing, is giving potential consequences or potential results rather than any sort of hard and fast prediction. Because there's too much going on, it's a system. It's a marvelously complex system, so is there, are there, I think part of the spirit of this question is, are there things that people would come to you and ask you that you would refuse? And I think the last question here, is there anything you won't predict? I'll just lump these two together and then just stop there. Anything you won't predict. I'll just give you an example. I had somebody coming to me. Actually, it was a casual conversation, and she said, "Oh, I wanted to get pregnant. Can you do a reading that would tell me when I was going to get pregnant?" And I was like, "Oh my God, no, I'm not going to try to do that." Not only is it medical in nature, I just feel like it's so emotional. I was not comfortable with that at all. And then, lo and behold, it's like when things come to you that you're like wanting to avoid. A friend from, actually from Biddy Tarot, wanted to get pregnant, and so she's somebody who I knew was a card reader and knew had that perspective, and she came to me and she said, when will I get pregnant? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'd kind of given it some thought after that other woman left about how I could possibly approach it, or I had done something else that was about timing. And again, I prefer, of course, like most readers, to empower people, give people messages or suggestions for how to affect an outcome, as opposed to what is an absolute outcome that you're waiting for. The passivity of that doesn't work for me very well as a human being. And it doesn't work for me in terms of providing something. Why provide something? Why come to me to get information that, if you were just to sit around waiting, you'd get anyway. If you just went on with your life, you'd get it anyway. But so this problem was presented to me, and I went ahead and I did it. I said, okay, I will pull some cards, one for each month as the world turns here. And if I see anything that looks like pregnancy, I'll let you know. And in fact, I did. And was it perfectly accurate? No. She was very generous. It was generally accurate from what I had seen. And according to kind of what I see when I do my own readings, it was accurate in terms of that pregnancy for about 6 months. And that is kind of I feel like I can predict with relative accuracy. You can see the relevance for about 6 months. If I go further out from that, it just starts falling off. Especially after 9 months, it's like, forget it. So that's one of the things. I think certainly things like death, or I don't know that there isn't, also, well, would you predict, there's always the ethics issue of other people, which isn't necessarily what you would predict. It's just, I'm not going to tell people, like, is my daughter really attracted to this guy? What's going on with my daughter's relationship with this man? It's like, no, that's their business, that kind of thing. I think I'm a very game kind of a person, and so I'm willing to entertain an idea frequently. But I might have a caveat with it, in terms of, I'll give it a shot, but this is nothing I've ever done before, and I think that there's problems with the whole idea, and then if somebody wants, and I think one of the questions in here is charging. If somebody wants to pay money for me to attempt that and give them information, then I can do it. Alright, number 5. Are you multidisciplinary, or do you only read tarot? In fact, well, if you think of tarot as isolated apart from other cards, then yes, I'm multidisciplinary. Because for many years in my life, in my own life, I used primarily oracle decks. And I continue to use oracle decks. I just don't find myself getting into runes particularly. I did stuff with stones, and I did them on this channel. I experimented with stones, and it was interesting, and some people were getting some value out of it, definitely. It was, I think, more the setup and time-wise, I just couldn't pursue it further. But I love stones and just stones. People call them crystals. I don't care. I don't need a fancy name. They're stones. They're pretty rocks. I love it. So I'd like to get into that more, perhaps again, but I don't see it happening anytime soon, just in terms of setup and having to think about it and stuff like that. So definitely multidisciplinary. I'm starting to get into palm reading. I really want to get into that. So if you're on my channel and you've actually watched this for 30 minutes, I can't believe I'm rambling so much. Clearly needed to talk. I may be asking people if they want to help me get some practice with palm reading. That would be really fun. But again, in the future. Okay. Is the message in the cards or in your head? Certainly, it's both. I think the nature of the question is like, are you imagining it? No, I wouldn't say that I'm imagining it. As I explained earlier, there are times when I feel like I am receiving information that is beyond the cards. But it's not the norm, it's not common, it's not all of the time. So I am reading the cards, I'm looking at the cards, but I'm bringing, and this really, as a professional reader, to me, this is what you're paying for in large part, is that I am bringing all of my experience to bear on how I'm interpreting the cards. And if you've got a multi-card layout, you're not only interpreting individual cards, much as you may do that, you're looking overall at interactions between the cards. What is the entire spread telling you? What does it mean when this card is next to this card? How is that altering the meaning, or perhaps pinpointing or narrowing the meaning of the two cards involved? So it is an analytical, I'm going to call it. It's kind of funny. I decided to kind of get into tarot cards and card reading to get away from the more analytical aspect of the teaching that I do. And in fact, whenever you're doing this kind of thing, like I'm about to say, it's an analytical construct that you come up with when you have a set of cards in front of you and you're trying to make sense out of them as a group, or you're trying to receive not only the messages of the individual cards, but what the entire spread or group of cards is coming together to give as a message. So, so it's both. So number 7, are you a priest or a fortune teller? I don't feel like I said, it's, I feel like I start to lose my accuracy after about 6 months out, so I can't claim that I'm some kind of great fortune teller, and I've never felt like I'm somebody who can see way into the future. I don't have that sort of psychic thing going on. So I guess I'm more of a priest if I have to. Those are my options. A priest in the sense of being an advisor. Now, whether I think that I'm a spiritual advisor, I guess sometimes, if you think of priest like the Hierophant in the tarot deck, as somebody who is helping you make life decisions, then I would say yes, definitely. As somebody who is giving you information or advice to help you make life decisions. Yes, priest. 8, are you a fixer or a looker? I'm assuming that the meaning of that is, are you just looking at the cards and providing the message, or are you trying to give the person, the client you're reading for, solutions? Are you trying to give them solutions to any issues that you see in the card? And again, I guess I would say, I would be inclined to kind of say both. It depends on the moment. A lot of times I think that we're coming to the cards looking for a solution. And excuse me, one of the things that can be difficult is that when you see a group of cards that is actually indicating a problem, that the message is that there is a problem. Excuse me, I am still recovering from that cold. Just little bits, just little, but it's still in there. And you know what you end up wanting to do is like pull more cards to kind of look into it, to feel, you know, to help the person, to give them enough information, again, to make some decisions in their life. So I guess a little bit of both. I don't think I'm a cold reader in the sense of only giving them, only saying like, I see this on this card and I see this on this card. I really think that it's part of our obligation when somebody pays us to read these cards to give, again, to provide our life experience as part of the reading. How do we see this? How do we see the problem? How do we see a potential solution, particularly in the cards? Because I don't usually have the person on the phone with me or anything, you know, I don't have direct feedback from them at the time of the reading. I provide sometimes a brainstorming of suggestions. But I also stick very much to what's in the cards. You know, it's a solution or suggestion related to what I'm seeing in the cards. And I don't depart too much from that. I don't automatically make an assumption that somebody's husband is cheating on them and thus they need to do X, Y, and Z. That I'm not interested in doing. And I certainly acknowledge that sometimes, you know, we have a bad break. We just have a bad break. And the key is there is no solution so much as suggestions for writing it out. For writing it out. How do you survive it? Sometimes that's all there is. And I feel like I don't get over-involved. I've had a couple of moments of that and have corrected myself, and it's like, no, I'm not going to get over-involved. Okay, number 9. Do you read for free or for a fee? And I have already mentioned a couple of times in the video that I do read for a fee. Now, you know, I started out doing free in order to see if it was something that I could do, again, with accuracy. And I still do some free readings. Obviously, I do the readings here on YouTube that I enjoy. It allows me to experiment and get out all of my different decks and play and stuff like that. And then on any of my videos, down in the information box, I can direct you to my Facebook page, which I sometimes will offer free readings on that when I have time, when I feel like I've got some time opening up and I can do that. I haven't done it in quite a while. And then also, I'm in some astrology groups on Facebook, and so sometimes I do, like for Pisces, and their birthday was just a month ago, a couple months, 6 weeks ago, and so I gave a free reading to one of the Pisces in there. So kind of random, nothing planned, nothing scheduled at this point. But if you're interested in free readings, you know, you do need to probably get on my Facebook page. And at this point, I would say I probably do it about quarterly. It's I've just got too much going on right now. But there you go. And that's it. I'm not going to do number 10 because I already covered it in number 4. And I have rambled on for almost 40 minutes. Oh my gosh. And here everybody else was doing it in 13 or 15 minutes. And I was thinking that's just about right. Oh my Lord. Congratulations to anybody who made it this far. Thanks for listening to me ramble. And participate in this. If you're a card reader, even if you are not a professional card reader, it's just interesting stuff to think about. So think about doing your own answers to these questions. Or even if you're somebody who receives readings, what kind of answer would you want to hear from somebody who you are paying to read for you? All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.